Alright, this video I want to speak about Chinese slaves. And the reason why I want to speak about this is because lately, the past couple of days, I've been watching some videos on like Chinese history. Just typing on YouTube Chinese history, and I don't know too much about my own history, and I just have the motivation to learn about it right now. And it's talking about, a lot of these videos are talking about the Great Wall, and it's talking about the first emperor of China and how he unified these separate states and turned it into China, and what he had to do, talking about the politics and how the power structure is. And my feedback on it right now is that it's really sad, and I'm starting to really understand why Chinese people are the way that they are, and why I'm the way I am, and why my parents are the way that they are, and my relatives, and just all Chinese people in general that I encounter. There's good parts, and there's a lot of bad parts. What I see is, like, how in America you got the blacks that always complain about, like, racism. They complain about discrimination. They complain about slavery. Now you see what the Europeans, or whatever you call them, that used the blacks as slaves. It became like a racial tension. Blacks, they used all the blacks from Africa to exploit them and turn them into slaves, profit off of them, and just treat them like crap. And then it becomes a racial war. The blacks against the whites, because it's like a racial distinction. Now, it's the same thing that happened with the Holocaust, with the Germans, the Hitler, the Nazis, and the Jews. Just exterminating a bunch of the Jews. The Nazis, the Germans, and whatnot, thinking that their race is like superior, exterminating a bunch of other races. So you see this racial war in between. But back then in China, it wasn't even a racial war. It was just a power struggle. So just imagine your own people killing you off. I mean, just because it's the emperor, he's like a tyrant, and he's just like exterminating like a bunch of people, enslaving his own people, his own color, everything. It's not even a racial thing, but it's just a power thing. And that's the thing, over here, that's what it's turning to. That is, first it was a racial thing. Blacks are like not, at our level or whatever. That's what the whites are thinking. They're not at our level, and we're gonna turn them into slaves. But now it's like, okay, Martin Luther King fought for the rights for the blacks and all minorities in general, and they're like, all right, we'll let a few of these minorities come up to our power, but we're still gonna enslave these masses of people, regardless of what skin color they are. We're just gonna still enslave them. Basically, no matter what, throughout history, I'm noticing that there's no such thing as equality, and there's always that power, that fighting for power. So back in that time, it's just basically the person, the people in power is just enslaving his own people. So you got this emperor, they're talking about like how the Great Wall of China, they're just like forcing like a million Chinese people to build this Great Wall. Like just forcing them to labor on this. And over like 250,000 of these people just died while they're making this wall, and they just like bury their bodies underneath the wall or whatever. And it's just enslaving their own people to do all this crazy stuff, and all this killing going on within the family, within the royal family or whatever. You got this emperor who's killing off his own sons, killing off his own mother, killing off his own father, killing off his own cousins, or brothers killing each other, to gain the power to be in the throne. And then once you get in the throne, everybody's trying to assassinate you. You know, it's just like when you're watching this stuff, it's just crazy how it is, and just how like you can never find happiness. You can never find inner peace, because once you have that power, someone's gonna try to take it away, and you're always worried that somebody's gonna take it away. And even if nobody takes it away, you still got death that's gonna take it away. And even, you know, you just see so much unhappiness with those people in power, and it's a sad thing, you know. And you know, and you see how they always bowing down to the emperor. Like, they don't really look at the emperor in the eyes. They're always looking down, and they're always submitting, calling him the majesty, and just total submission, looking down all the time, and just not really, like, because everything's like punishable by death. I mean, they'll kill you for anything. They even said that they made laws that if you fornicate, pretty much meaning if you have sex before marriage, that you're gonna be beheaded. I mean, it's freaking crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people are so suppressed and so enslaved that, I mean, they're not paid to work like how we are here. The emperor is basically telling them, if you don't work, I'm just gonna kill you. So if you want to live, you better work. And then so the people work, and they work till death. You know, he'll force them to do like the craziest things. You know what I mean? Building this wall, making these weapons, making these statues and these tombs, putting them to crazy labor. And what do they get out of it? Oh, you get to live. That's it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, it's horrible. You know, when you see it, and it's just like, that's why the Chinese are the way that they are. It's like, when you are in a, have you been in part of your history to be in a government where they just kill your ass just for any little thing that you do, then it's like you're like always in order no matter what. Like you never rebel against authority because you're so scared, you know. And then you just can't express yourself. And also, like, their sex lives are so messed up, so jacked up, because if you're punishable by death for fornicating, of course they're not going to show any emotions or feelings of sex, because they're going to die if they have sex. You know what I'm saying? So they got that aspect. They got the whole looking down thing and never looking at an authority figure in the eyes aspect. You got the whole aspect where they're so enslaved that their lives are so miserable that even if you give them a little bit of freedom, they're ecstatic. So meaning, even to this day, you go to China, I mean, you got people that are working for probably like 50 cents a day or 50 cents an hour or whatever, how much. They make like nothing. You know, here we are complaining about getting a minimum wage, but they're barely getting anything, but then they still work. They're not like fighting back like how the blacks fight back, because to them, hey, 50 cents a day, that's better than nothing. That's how they're thinking, because they live through the worst of the worst. I mean, when you see what they went through, it puts the black slavery like that, like it was nothing. Like, that ain't nothing. Oh, you getting whipped? Shit, we getting beheaded. That's pretty much what's going on over there. You know, even the Holocaust was nothing. It seems like it was nothing compared to that. But I mean, at the same time, you know, I don't know exactly how many people died in the Holocaust, but that was really messed up, of course. But this wasn't even a racial thing. This was just, you know, the emperor, destroying his own people. Um, and you see why it's so hard for Chinese people to express themselves, because it's like in their blood to be submissive. Like you can't even teach them to stand up for themselves because it's already in them to be submissive. It's already in them to not look at people in the eyes because to them they don't want to die or something like that. There's like it's trained in their brain that hey, I'm not supposed to look at person in the eyes. You know what I'm saying? It's trained in them to work hard for nothing, for no pay. They work their ass off for no pay because they're just basically, hey, I'm working to live because if I don't work, they're just gonna kill me. So I'll just work. And then it's like you see why the Chinese are so like sexually repressed and how they have like no showings of emotions. Because if they show emotion and they show lust or they show like feelings of, of wanting to be intimate, they could be killed. I mean, it's just like crazy, and I'm like, wow, the Chinese go through a lot. I mean, they go through all that, and then you put them here in the States, it's like, whoa, it's like freaking night and day. Like, discrimination here is nothing. That's why they don't stand up for themselves. You got a Chinese person, you call him whatever you want to call him, ching chong chink, whatever the hell you want to say, and he ain't gonna say nothing to do nothing, because to him that ain't nothing compared to the shit that he goes on over there. You pay him minimum wage, and he's like, hey, this is great. I'm living the life. Because over there he's getting like nothing, working maybe 20 hour days, building up this great wall for no pay, and then you come over to America, you get minimum wage, you only got to work 8 hours a day. Hey, he's like, man, this is heaven. Over there they might be eating like garbage, and then they come over here, they get some decent food. They're like, hey, America's the bomb. But then even though you got some of these racists that treat Chinese like shit, to them they're like, hey, this is fucking, I love this shit. Like, this is great here in America. And first, they might not even speak the language, and you got all these racists talking all this shit to them. They don't even know what they're saying anyway. So then they just don't even pay attention. So it's like, that's why you got a lot of Chinese people that stay to themselves. They don't bother anybody. Even though people may bother them, they don't bother anybody. They work hard. And they excel in school, in their studies. And they just work hard. They're in the backdrop. You got a bunch of racists that pick on the Chinese people. And then they don't fight back. You got a bunch of racists or whatever that's discriminate against them, or they throw them in low-paying jobs. But then the Chinese people they don't care. They just keep working hard. They don't need to get a manager's position or a corporate job. They just work at the restaurant and they work hard. To serve people, get food, make people's food. I mean, when you see what they went through in the past, there's nothing in America that could possibly ever be worse than what they went through in the past. Because what they went through in the past is just, it's like living in hell. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they just worked them to death for nothing, for no pay. They would kill off their family like nothing. This is one scene where the emperor wasn't supposed to be, nobody's supposed to know where he's at, but they found him and told him, oh, this is where he's at, and the emperor's like, hey, all right, whoever said that, kill him and his whole family. I mean, it's like ruthless, crazy shit, in the history of China. And, now I understand why Um, there's a lot of Chinese people that are the way that they are. It's in them. But at the same time, that's the kung fu that I'm talking about that you can't really get here in the West. The kung fu is just that discipline in bettering yourself just because, not because you want money, not because you want to impress people, but just you just have it in you just to better yourself. And that's something that that's one of the positives that you get from that. Is you're so used to just working hard for nothing that you give them just a little something, it's like that's great. And that's the kung fu. Just like working hard and getting better and bettering yourself. And definitely, they got a lot of kung fu, but there is a huge expense, to that they had to go through.